With this video, I am going to try to prove to you that the tribulation, the story of the tribulation, is told 7 times in the book of Revelation, and not only once, as most people think it is. I always thought and said here on YouTube that the story is told at least 3 times, but I have sat down and really counted, and it's 7 times. It's 7 times, and it's amazing because of the many sevens you encounter in this book. There's a lot. I had heard once a teaching from Chuck Missler, and he points that out. He said there are a lot of sevens in the book. He found like hundreds, perhaps thousands. And he said we could easily find more because there's so much. And a few I have here. You have the 7 churches, the 7 seals, the 7 stars, the 7 horns, the 7 thunders, the 7 beatitudes, the 7 new things at the end, the 7 lampstands, the 7 trumpets, the 7 lamps, 7 eyes. There is a lot. The 7 spirits, the 7 bowls, the 7 promises to the overcomer, the 7 angels, the 7 heads. There's a lot. There's the 7 I ams of Christ in the book. There's a lot. So I think I found another one without even looking, because I wasn't looking for it. I just sat down and counted the times where I've seen the tribulation start over again, and it's 7 times. So here it goes. Chapter 1 is an introduction. Chapter 2 of the book of Revelation are the letters, 4 of the 7 letters to the churches. Chapter 3, you found the remaining 3 letters. In chapter 4, it begins with the rapture, I believe, and a scene in heaven. There is a lot of commotion in heaven when the rapture starts in chapter 4, with behold, I saw a door in heaven opening, and a voice as many waters said, "Come up hither." That's a picture of the rapture. So I believe the rapture happens with the first group, the first batch, and they are the first fruits, the overcomers, and they were ready when the Lord came. And then the tribulation starts. But in heaven, in chapter 4 and chapter 5, you see they worshiping the Lord. You have redeemed us from, you have made us kings and priests unto our gods, and glorifying the Lord and the Father. And then Jesus opens up the seals. In chapter 6, the judgment starts, and you see the tribulation starting with the first horse, the white horse, the Antichrist, coming on the scene, and all the following judgments until the 6th one, which is a great earthquake, and the islands be taken from their places and all of that. That's like every time the end of the story with thunders and thunderings and voices and well, how is it? Voices, thunderings, and I cannot recall, but that's always the end. The great earthquake and the city falling, the city being Jerusalem, and the cities of the world falling. That's the end of the tribulation. And you see that in chapter 6. So the tribulation starts in chapter 6 and concludes in chapter 6. And then in chapter 7, there are two groups introduced. And you see the first group is sealed before the first two judgments of chapter 8 starts. So before the tribulation starts again, because in chapter 8, the tribulation starts for the second time. The story is told from a different angle, and it starts for the second time. And the second group in chapter 7 is a group that is redeemed from the tribulation. So these people come out of the tribulation. The first group doesn't. Okay. Chapter 8, we already said, is the second mentioning or telling of the story of the tribulation until the fourth judgment. In chapter 9, the story continues with the fifth judgment. That is the first woe, and the sixth judgment. That is the second woe. And in chapter 10, you have the angel and the little book. In chapter 11, the second woe is mentioned again, with new details or other details. And then the two witnesses are introduced, and the seventh judgment, and that is the third woe, is revealed. That is the conclusion of the second story, or the second mentioning of the story of the Great Tribulation, or the tribulation, the 7-year period where God's wrath comes down to earth. Some people argue that the Great Tribulation is at the end, the second half of the 7-year tribulation. I don't think that is so, because of Jesus mentioning, I think it was Jesus, but there is a mentioning in the Bible when it refers to the Great Tribulation as being 7 years. So that is why I do not share the view that the Great Tribulation is the last 3.5 years only. Okay. Then I continue with chapter 12. That is the start of the tribulation, and it ends also with the woman in travail and bearing a man-child. The man-child is taken up, and she is then persecuted, her with her remaining seed. They are persecuted upon the earth, and she is taken into safety by the Lord. And in chapter 13, the fourth time that the story of the Great Tribulation is told, and this time the angle of the upcoming Antichrist and the false prophet is told. So the story is being told with what they are going to do this time, and how they are going to deceive people, how they will go about it, and then the tribulation concludes again in chapter 13. In chapter 14, the tribulation starts again, and now Jesus stands there with 144,000 on the Mount Zion, and yes, all these proclamations, a few angels are coming and proclaiming judgment, proclaiming not to take the mark, proclaiming that is going to be how do you say it? I'm sorry, I'm looking it up, but let's see. Okay. Proclaiming also that Jesus can reap, the earth is ripe. So that's the fifth mention and telling of the story from another perspective. And then in chapter 15, the tribulation starts again. And there is a scene in heaven, there's a second rapture, and all these judgments are pre-announced. Let me see, chapter 15. Let's see. And in chapter 14, the 144,000 are also told about. And in chapter 15, let's see. Then you have the 7 angels coming out of the temple, and they have the 7 plagues. And they are about to pour them out. They are in bowls, and they will pour them out upon different areas, upon the earth and in the sky, and on the sea, on the trees, and so forth. So the tribulation starts for the 6th time, it is told in chapter 15, and it continues on in chapter 16, and it concludes in chapter 16. In chapter 16, you have all the 7 plagues mentioned. And in chapter 17, the tribulation is told for the 7th and last time in the book. with the pre-announcing of the fall of Babylon, and I will look it up. Chapter 17. Yes, here there are pre-announcing how it will go down again, and that there will be war, and that the kings will hate this whore, the mystery Babylon. And in chapter 18, so in chapter 17, you have the pre-announcement, and in chapter 18 you have really the description of the fall of mystery Babylon and the continuation of the tribulation. In chapter 19, the marriage of the supper, the marriage supper of the Lamb is mentioned. The Bema Seat judgment, that's not really a judgment. Yeah, it is a judgment, but it is the saints who already are in heaven and are saved. They are receiving rewards in heaven for their work here. So they were already saved, but if you get a crown, if you get riches in heaven, like Jesus said, to gather the riches in heaven, not here on earth. So you have to work for it, you have to gather it, and that is with good works. So they receive a reward, and some will receive no reward, but they will still be saved. And others will receive the reward. Armageddon is mentioned. Armageddon is the final battle, and the tribulation concludes in chapter 19. And in chapter 20, you have the post-tribulation 1,000-year reign of Christ. The white throne judgment, that's the final judgment from all the dead. So the dead that did die without the Lord will be judged in this judgment. And in chapter 21, the new heaven and the new earth. And in chapter 22, eternity with the Lord. So I will put this this thing that I set up also in the video. I'm sorry that it took so long, but I'm not a real great speaker. I just wanted to be obedient, and I believe really we are so close, and I wanted to put this out as soon as possible, and just to do what I was told to do like a month ago, because everything God shows us, every new revelation we have to share it. We cannot keep it to ourselves. Okay, God bless you. And yes, please read the word, know your God, love your God, obey your God, the Lord God Almighty. Yes, know that it's important to have your armor on, and that is very, very important. So read about it, and everything you have to do to come clean with the Lord, do that, because it will be very important in the days ahead. Okay, God bless you. Bye bye.